Both body paragraphs are claim EI-EIO paragraphs. Remember, this format of paragraph is the model that our school uses for argument writing. A claim is an argument, a point of view which you as a writer are defending and trying to prove to your reader. You do so with evidence to back up your claim, and use a reasoning to explain that evidence's relevance. In a civilized world, it is not whomever can yell the loudest who wins an argument, but whomever has the best reasoning for it. Because the claim is your point that you are trying to prove, it should be in your own words, a plain telling of your answer. It is the first sentence or sentences of the paragraph, but still never saying I or talking about the essay. For 10th graders, this first body paragraph may be about how, since Denny is in charge of his own fate, his actions helped lead him into the trouble that he ended up with Annika for a majority of the story. For 12th graders, this paragraph will be about how Rex and Rosemary Walls are bad parents to Jeanette and her siblings. I'll continue here with my sample prompt about Macbeth. As I laid out in my introduction, one of the main points that I am making is that Macbeth is responsible for his own actions and that outside influences did not force him to do anything. They did not even first give him the idea. So, my opening claim for the body paragraph will be, during the early events of the play, Macbeth is shown to be ambitious and desire greater honor. He thinks on his own that he may have to get rid of his competition. So you see, I used more than one sentence to make a claim here. It could also be done in one sentence, as it usually is, but more than one is good and sometimes better. The E's in claim EI-EIO stand for evidence. This is where you prove your claim is correct by using a credible source to quote and show that you are not the only person who believes this. Usually in an English class, the evidence comes in the form of a quote from the text that we are reading at the time. There are two E's in claim EI-EIO, so I'm going to need two pieces of evidence. I'm going to start with the first one that I have chronologically in the story. It makes more sense to put quotes in order rather than jumping around a story when proving my point. My first quote comes from Act 1, Scene 3. Why do I yield to that suggestion whose horrid image doth unfix my hair and make my seated heart knock at my ribs? Notice how this quote doesn't seem to make much sense. It's not just because it's Shakespeare's writing, but because I haven't given any context to my readers. See, quotes without context to give them some background information can be meaningless or senseless. Remember, pretend that your reader has never read the story you're talking about. Otherwise, your evidence will seem random or confusing. So my context before that quote I just gave you should say, early in the play, Macbeth is given a series of prophecies, including one which says that he'll become the king someday. This surprises him, as he is currently far down the line of succession. However, once he hears news that the other prophecies are coming true, he immediately begins having dark thoughts of murder to obtain the crown from his cousins. Now that that explanation of context is in front of the quote, it makes more sense to my reader when Macbeth says that he has a thought or suggestion which makes his heart pound. He's reacting to the murderous thoughts that he just had to obtain the throne, and he still, at this point in the story, feels guilty about it. But his mind did go there. To continue my body paragraph, I now need an inference. These are written in our own words, not with quotes from the story. And they are where we explain why the quote shows our point. Do not simply re-word the quote in our own words. That is probably the number one mistake that my students tend to make when writing claim EI-EIO. Just repeating the same information in different words, though, is not good to help your reader. So here's a bad inference for that quote. Macbeth says that he gives in to thoughts that scare him and make his heart pound. See how that just said the same thing? I'm just repeating it over and over again. Repeating is not improving. Here's a good inference. Macbeth's thoughts immediately turn to murder as soon as he's even given a suggestion that his prophecy may come true. No one told him to commit murder to achieve his goal yet. His mind went there on its own. I'm halfway done with this paragraph. Now I need a second piece of evidence with context in front of it to prepare my reader, and I'll need an inference afterwards to explain its relevance and not just repeat the quote. Following the same process for the first piece of evidence, I found my quote first, then I decided what my readers needed to know before reading it, for it to make sense. Then I explained why it proved my point. In the end, my result was this. Remember, in your essay, just like in this example 1 paragraph, you need 2 pieces of evidence with context and 2 inferences to explain your answer. Finally, the O in claim EI-EIO stands for outstanding conclusion to the paragraph, or in this case, really an outstanding transition, because we have another body paragraph to follow it, which I think is self-explanatory. It's where you wrap up a point you're making and transition, slide into another point of your argument, to make the whole essay seem as an interconnected series of thoughts, rather than individual thoughts, separate from each other. And again, notice, at no point in this body paragraph do I say, I think that, or I believe that, or I am going to prove that, or my essay is going to show that. None of that! The points that I'll be making in my sample body paragraph number 2 will be that other characters who might be blamed for Macbeth's decisions are not as integral to his downfall as he is himself. So, to transition into that thought, I can say, while Macbeth does have these independent thoughts, some people may see the story and blame characters like Lady Macbeth, or the witches for Macbeth's evil decisions. However, we see here that he was thinking of murder all on his own. Follow the same process for typing your second body paragraph. For 10th graders, this paragraph may be about how Denny overcomes obstacles, and through his actions and words is able to change his fate at the end of the book. It may also be about how other characters and how they change their own fate through their decisions, just like Denny has. For 12th graders, this paragraph will be about how Rex and Rosemary are, at times, actually good parents who teach their children valuable lessons and prepare them for life. For the sake of time and to reduce redundancy, I won't show you the whole process again for my second body paragraph, but here is my end product for the body paragraph number 2 of my example essay about Macbeth. Note how it is proving a related but separate component argument. Paragraph 4, the conclusion. In the final paragraph, can I talk about myself or my writing in the first person? No. Never talk about yourself or your writing in your writing. That includes the conclusion paragraph. The final paragraph is the conclusion. If you've already done all else well, this can be the easiest paragraph to write, as much if it is just reiterating the points made earlier in the essay. However, the final concluding sentence can be what is most difficult to some writers. In the conclusion, you should first restate the claim. Do not repeat it, restate it in new words. In my case, this would mean the idea that Macbeth is most responsible for the tragic outcome of the play. In new words, I might write, though blame could be assigned to several characters in Shakespeare's play Macbeth, the one character most responsible is Macbeth himself. Note how this is not the same wording as the question, or the exact same wording as my introduction, but it is making the same point. Checklist item number 2, review the major points proven in the body paragraphs. I can do this in my example for Macbeth as well, when I say, this can be seen in the way that his thoughts immediately turned to murder before even speaking with his wife, and the fact that he already had the capability for extreme violence before ever interacting with the witches. And finally, item number 3 for your conclusion paragraph, complete the essay with some final words which wrap up the argument. Your chance to have the final word, mic drop, and moonwalk on out of there. So in my example essay, I could say, Macbeth, like anyone in real life, cannot blame another for his actions. People are in charge of their own lives, and whatever decisions they make are theirs alone. Whatever successes, or like in Macbeth's case, failures, that occur are the responsibility of no one but themselves. Notice how in my conclusion I wrapped it all up neatly in kind of a general lesson or central idea that we can all learn for our everyday lives? I did this while even wrapping up the argument that I was making in my entire essay. That's solid concluding. So, have I checked off every item on the checklist? Yes. Yes, I have. Is my end product perfect right now just because I checked off all of these boxes? No. There are still some edits that I would do, and I would like to reword some things. I need to make sure my formatting is correct, and I need to make sure that I have good subject-verb agreement throughout, and I need to make sure that I've remained consistent in my use of tense. But for a start, this is looking pretty good. I hope that this longer video will help you understand how the writing process should work for this final essay. I am willing to help answer questions, so please email me and ask. Just please watch this video in its entirety before you do, because the questions that you have may have already been answered here. And also, please think carefully about what you're trying to ask. Be more detailed than, I don't know what to write, or I don't understand the question. That's it for today's longer Formal Friday video. We only have 1 or 2 videos left in our unit. So, with 1 week remaining, ladies and gentlemen, good luck on your essays. Remember to contact me if you have any questions. Remember to respond to the poll of the day from our last video about where you would rather be, the East Coast or the West Coast. And have a great weekend, everybody.